A quick introduction to your host, Ken Shaw. He's the founder and CEO at Infrascale. So I'm going to pass it over to Ken. We are going to be sending you a copy of this presentation afterward, so you'll have all the contact information and these slides as well as the recording. So I'll pass it over to Ken.
Thanks, Carla. Good morning, everybody, or good afternoon if you're joining us from the East Coast. Ken Shaw here. Today's webinar running time will be about 30 minutes. This is the agenda. At the end of the webinar, we'll do a sort of Ask Me Anything Q&A session, but don't be shy. You can start asking questions pretty much straight away. So I think Carla pointed out the questions tool in the GoToWebinar software a minute ago. That's really worth finding as we're going along. If you hear something that you're interested in or you'd like to understand better, just ask the questions. We'll be answering them as we go and then doing Q&A at the end. In terms of the agenda, we'll be introducing you to Infrascale, what we do, what our product platform does and can do for you and your business. Talk a little bit about our security and privacy model, and then how that intersects with some of the larger macro trends in the cloud industry. Then we'll take a more specific look at the Infrascale product line and how that all comes together in your partnership with Infrascale. So just a little background on Infrascale. We've been around now for almost 10 years. The company was founded in 2006. In terms of just some sort of fact points about the company, we've got 1,000 MSP and ISP and data center partners around the world. We're almost exclusively a channel-oriented company. Between 80 and 90% of our revenue comes from the channel. So we're extremely focused on the success of our channel partners. About 1 million endpoints connected to our grid today, 12 points of presence around the world now, even though this slide says 11. And what we focus on doing is using the cloud to change the way small businesses and small enterprise go about performing data protection, and really enabling our partners to take advantage of all that technology and bundle it and package those solutions in different ways to their end users. In terms of some recent updates, this was probably covered in some emails that you would have received, but we had some exciting news here at the company recently. Last month, we closed out a Series B funding, $16 million in new funding, and all that is going into us building our products and really expanding our offerings to our partners. So hopefully many of you on today's call are going to become partners, or we've probably got some existing partners on the phone today. Infrascale, we're a profitable company. We've been growing like a weed. So we didn't need to raise this capital. The reason we did it was so that we could make major advancements and major improvements in our product and technology set. And so as part of that very effort, we also announced last week the acquisition of the technology and team from Eversync Solutions. Eversync is a fantastic company based out of Salt Lake City, Utah. I've got some dedicated slides on what that acquisition means for our existing partners and for our prospective partners. But it's exciting times here at Infrascale. So this slide and the next slide are probably the most important in the PowerPoint deck. So if you only listen to me drone on for a couple of minutes, this is when you should. What we do at Infrascale is, so I said it in the intro, we use the cloud to change the way businesses can do data protection. And so we've built a data protection platform. I'll talk a bit about what makes it a platform, but first I want to talk about what we mean by data protection. We're very careful in developing that messaging about not calling it backup or DR, because data protection is more than that. It's also about knowing where your data is, so things like being able to geolocate a device. It's also about being able to destroy certain data at appropriate times. So, for example, selectively deleting content off an employee's laptop, or even bricking a device and formatting it completely if, say, a device has been stolen. And all of that is part of the Infrascale data protection platform. So if you think about this slide as a collection of verbs here, backup, archive, file sharing, and disaster recovery, and then a collection of nouns here, of the device types, you could actually represent this in a table, and that then gives you the picture of the full spectrum of functionality you get when you become an Infrascale partner. So all Infrascale partners get access to the Infrascale dashboard, and if we've got some time, we'll look at that live. But when you come into dashboard, you get solutions for backup, archive, file sharing, and DR, and you've got options for all of these device types at the bottom. So there's 3 large buckets: servers, desktops and laptops, and mobile. generally a vendor focuses on only one of these categories. So you've got the Druvers of the world who are really good at Windows laptops, and that's it. And by the way, they only just do the backup piece. Then you've got the Commvaults or Symantec's of the world who spend all their time building out their server-based technology. But they have really poor solutions for desktops and laptops and mobile, and they're about 4 times more expensive than the InfraScale platform. So within servers, we're talking about physical servers and virtual servers. We're talking about Microsoft-based operating systems as well as Unix or Linux, native VMware support so that if your customers have already virtualized, then we can just go in there and work at the host level. So a lot of flexibility around servers where traditionally most business data has sat. But then also really robust solutions for laptops, including some of the functionality I talked about, locator device, wiper device, and then mobile, where I think the only cloud backup vendor who provides backup applications for mobile devices. So we can back up Android devices, not just provide access and remote access and sharing. So you then get, we then talk a little bit about our hosting model, which boils down to this sort of byline of your cloud, our cloud, or any cloud. But that's best visualized on this slide. And this slide's a bit of an eye chart, but what we've got here in the middle of the screen is the InfraScale dashboard. This is where InfraScale partners live and breathe. This is what you log into every day. This is where you interact with the products, and it's where you interact with your customers. At the bottom, we've got those same 3 device type groupings that we just talked about: servers, laptops, mobiles. And at the top, we've then got cloud destinations. So top left-hand corner, we've got our cloud. InfraScale operates a global infrastructure grid, so you can use the back-end InfraScale storage grid if you want to, and that's a turnkey solution. We've got data centers in all the major countries where our partners are, mainly the USA, Canada, the United Kingdom, South Africa, Australia, probably missing a few. So you can use our turnkey underlying infrastructure services, but you don't have to. You can just use our software and you can put it on a private cloud. So if you're, say, a data center, or even if you're a managed service provider and you've got a rack in a colo center somewhere, you can run our software on that. And then lastly, if you've got clients or if you yourself have already formed a relationship with one of the big public clouds like a Microsoft Azure or an Amazon Web Services, you can also host our technology there. But it all gets centralized and controlled through Dashboard, which gives you a single pane of glass to let you manage up to 5,000 locations beneath you and all of the devices within that. So it dramatically simplifies multi-client or multi-site management of those 4 verbs we talked about: backup, archive, file sharing, and disaster recovery. No questions so far, but feel free to ask me a question as we go along. Again, when these things are interactive, they're probably better for everybody, more enjoyable for us and more educational for you. Moving now to a little bit about the InfraScale approach to security and privacy. I always like to say security and privacy because they're different, and the privacy part of that sentence is starting to garner major attention. So if we sort of think about cloud storage, and if we think about some of the high-flying startups that are often in the news, the Dropboxes and Boxes of the world, we don't compete directly with them. They're very limited one-trick ponies. They're good at sort of file sharing. But they do shine a light on an interesting trend where with Box and Dropbox, when you store data in their cloud infrastructure, firstly, you have to use their cloud infrastructure. You can't do the private cloud we just talked about, or you can't do the third-party public cloud we just talked about. But not only do you have to use their cloud infrastructure, they take an approach to encryption that basically boils down to trust us. They have the encryption keys that's needed to unlock data, and they can unlock that data at any time for any reason. Or, God forbid, if somebody hacked into their system, or if an employee went rogue, or if they were issued a subpoena, they've got access to that data. And that's depicted on the bottom half of this slide, where here on this laptop we've got some office documents. They get sent through an encrypted tunnel, and then hits the data center, gets encrypted with a key that those companies know and store. Now, we at InfraScale don't think you should trust anybody with your data or with your client's data, and you don't have to. So the approach we take and some other companies take is what's called double-blind encryption, and it yields what we call a zero-knowledge storage pattern. So what happens here is those same documents here on that same machine, they get encrypted with a key that you know. Then they get sent through an encrypted tunnel. They get to the data center, and they're encrypted with a key again that we manage. And so it's just like the metaphor of a safety deposit box at a Swiss bank. You need your key to open it, and you also need the bank manager's key to open it. And unless you've got both of those keys in a trusted transaction, the data scrambles and completely gibberish. And so whether you partner with Infrascale or not, make sure whichever vendor you choose is using double-blind encryption. It's really the only safe and responsible way to be doing cloud-related storage. And this has become an incredibly hot topic with the NSA disclosures, with the Heartbleed vulnerability, with all of Edward Snowden's disclosures. And I think you'll find when you talk to your customers, this is a really hot topic. We already touched on this. So 15 global points of presence. I got it wrong when I said 12 before on 5 continents. So what this boils down to for you and for your customers is the ability to dictate where the data actually resides. So if we've got some of our friends from Canada on the line this morning. If you want to make sure that your data stays in Toronto, either because of regulatory reasons or just because of customer parochialism, and they want to know that their data is staying in Canada, you can do that. Similarly, in the United States, you can choose where your data is going to be residing, and also in our international territories. So now let's talk a little bit more specifically about Eversync. Stepping back, Eversync makes really highly performant deduplicating data protection appliances. Now, that's a mouthful, but think about it as a rack mount device that you can put on-premise with a customer that is really good at dehydrating data and radically reducing that data payload and then replicating that data off-site. So you've got the ability to back up at land speed, and you've got the ability to recover at land speed. And that delivers really low RTOs and really low RPOs, right, which are sort of jargon for recovery time objective and recovery point objective. But basically, how long is it going to take you to get back up and running after a disaster, and how far back in time is that process going to deliver you? So they have spent the last 6 years building out a fantastic team and a fantastic product line. About 1,000 data centers around the country are running Eversync data protection appliances. Then if you think about Infrascale, Infrascale is really good at writing software and designing, building, and scaling secure and private cloud infrastructure. So if you put these two concepts together, what you end up getting is a cloud-connected data protection device with the speed and control associated with on-premise storage, but then with the scalability and resiliency of the cloud behind it. And so this then gives us the flexibility to say to our partners, look, for some of your customers who just want to do on-premise backup appliances, cool, we can do that. For your other customers who want to go straight to cloud and just use software, that's cool, we can do that too. And for your more sophisticated or complicated customer environments where they need a hybrid approach, they need some data on-premise, some data replicated, or they need to do site-to-site replication, that's cool, we can do that too. So it really rounds out the data protection offerings that we can deliver to our channel partners, and it brings the Eversync channel partners into the Infrascale fold as well. So it's a really exciting development, and you're going to be seeing a lot of product announcements in the next few quarters as we combine these two technology stacks and build what we genuinely believe is the most robust and flexible data protection platform on earth. And I'm not putting caveats on that. I'm talking about a platform that very nicely competes against Symantec NetBackup and NetBackup appliances or Backup Exec or any of the EMC product lines. So it's a really compelling solution set that we're building out. Okay, so let's turn now to a little bit more of the product details. But before I do that, we've got a couple of questions here on the line. I've got a question here from Gary. Do we support Hyper-V? Yes, Gary, we do. Gary also writes, can you speak to the level of integration with Eversync and the dashboard? So Gary, within the next 60 days, Eversync will be fully integrated into the Eversync dashboard. And then there'll be further and further integration between the product lines. We've been working with the Eversync crew for quite a long time, going on 9 months. We were actually in the process of forming a strategic business partnership when it became clear that it would be wonderful for the Eversync team and wonderful for us if those employees joined us and if that technology came over. So we are furiously working to integrate these solutions, and there'll be sort of watch this space, but within the next 2 months, you'll see all of the Eversync management functionality inside the InfraScale dashboard. All right, so I might have missed a slide there. I've got the question stuff blocking my screen. Sorry about that, folks. Okay, so moving now into some of the more detail around the InfraScale technology and product stack. This little wheel diagram on the bottom left of this slide does a good job of sort of laying out all the functionality we're talking about. So it can get confusing when when you start to get in what's the difference between backup and archive, what's the difference between backup and DR. But essentially what we're talking about is one solution that lets you back up servers, that lets you back up endpoints, whether they be laptops or desktops or tablets or phones, do full disaster recovery for a complete site, do file sharing just like a Box.com, and then do remote wipe also. And that remote wipe can be selective or total. So that gives you a solution that delivers complete backup and archive, complete DR, and secure file sharing. When we talk servers, we get a lot of questions about what types of servers. And so it's file servers, email servers, database servers. We often get asked, do you support Exchange? Yes, we support all major versions of Exchange. Do you support SQL Server? Yes, we support all major versions of SQL Server, and so on and so forth. With Exchange, we've even got granular recovery, where you can recover at the full database level, down at the mailbox level, or even down at the message level. And so I actually covered most of this. Yeah, this slide really just makes the point I was just talking to. I should have flipped the slide. But the benefit of this for MSPs is, I got a question for the audience. How many of you struggle with heterogeneous environments, right? So how many of you struggle with the fact that your customers all have a mixed bag of solutions? Is this a pain point for you? You've got lots of customers. They've all got different networks. They've all got different solutions, different types of hardware, different types of mobile fleets. So J.R. Hardwick says, I do, exclamation mark. And I'd love to hear from any of the others. Give me your scenario. What are you dealing with? What's the pattern you're dealing with? What's the infrastructure? So JR adds, yeah, even per department. Yeah, and JR, absolutely. Within even medium-sized companies, you've got very different IT infrastructure, even within different departments. So a common pattern we see is we've got Linux-based web servers, but we've got Windows and Microsoft-based Active Directory servers, and then we've got an Exchange server, and then we've got corporate laptops that are Windows, but then a bunch of employee laptops that are Macs. There is no solution on the market that allows you to do backup, DR, archive, and file sharing across all of those systems. And I'll eat crow if you can point me to one, but this is really probably the most valuable thing we can give to our partners is simplicity. It's that reduction in complexity. One platform, one solution, the confidence that whenever you're talking to a customer about backup, you're going to be able to fit their needs. I got a call yesterday from one of our partners. He called me on my cell phone. I'm sure he won't mind me telling this story. His name's Stan. But he's got to deal with an environment where there are 4 physical hosts with 13 virtual machines, all running a hodgepodge of operating systems and varying versions of SharePoint. And he just wanted to check, can we handle that? We went very particular, he was very particular about going line by line about what's running what and where. And the answer was absolutely, we can support that. And so that's a pretty common conversation. So the benefit for you is you don't have to worry about it. You don't need to worry about sourcing multiple vendors. You don't need to worry about running, say, 3 or 4 different platforms and then trying to glue it all together, right? This is a fully integrated platform which can meet all of your backup, archive, DR, and file sharing needs. All right, so just getting a little bit more particular about what we're talking about. I think we've covered some of this, but I'll do some more highlights. So that when we talk about DR, for example, what am I talking about? Well, there I'm mainly talking about doing bare metal backup. So what you recover is not just data or files, but a fully running machine. And so common backup parlance is RTO and RPO, which we're talking about. I sort of made up a term recently in talking with our engineering department about ROT, Recovery Object Type, to help distinguish between these different flavors. And when we're talking about DR, the recovery object type is a fully running machine. So imagine that you take a bare metal image of a server. It's transactionally consistent. It quiesces the databases on it so that it settles Exchange and SQL Server down, so you're not going to tear any transactions. Then you back up that data on-premise, then replicate that off-site in the cloud. Then the building burns down. We can bring that machine back up running as a virtual machine in the cloud and have you run that temporarily as your second site until you can get that primary site reestablished. Now, we didn't invent that type of technology. That's been available to large enterprises at literally 10 times the price point that Infrascale is offering it. So the price performance level that Infrascale can deliver to you and therefore to your customers really is quite exceptional. And so one way to think about what we're doing here is taking best practices from the largest IT organizations in the world, simplifying them, integrating them, bringing them together and delivering them to you in a very simple software package where you can manage all of this functionality from a single pane of glass or even from your iPhone or your iPad across as many sites as you've got. We've got one partner who has 15,000 businesses being managed through their single dashboard. Talking a little bit more about file sharing, this has become a really hot sort of category. We get a ton of questions about this, but we have a fantastic business-oriented file sharing module within the system. The module is called FileLocker, and it's got three components: a desktop app that works a little bit like a Dropbox, but with a lot more security and functionality built in, and then a web-based application which has got advanced collaboration, group support, unlimited versioning, all sorts of business-focused collaboration features, and then some more technical things like, for example, SharePoint integrations. So imagine you logged into a little app on your phone and you could see some folders. And some of those folders have got files in them, but then some of those other folders are actually libraries on a SharePoint server, so that your end users now can actually get to a SharePoint document repository without needing to ever even know it's SharePoint. So the ability to externalize and mobilize content. All of this is built into the Infrascale platform. And you can see videos about FileLocker and how it works on our website. Really encourage you to do that. All right, so we're running short on time, so I might I'll skip the demo at this point, and then at the end when I'm doing the Q&A, I'll bring the dashboard up there. So we've got some more questions here. Oh no, we don't. All right, encourage you to ask some more questions. We've got just a few more slides, and then we'll be into the Q&A. So let's talk about how you can partner with Infrascale. Well, first things first, you could be up and running tomorrow. So if you've got a customer who has data protection needs, you could be up and running as an Infrascale partner in the Infrascale dashboard, selling your own rebranded, white-labeled data protection stack that includes everything I talked about today, and you could literally be up and running tomorrow. To do that, just call in and talk to one of our partner specialists. This slide, again, just summarizes everything that we do from a platform standpoint. Let me talk a little bit more about the partner program. When you become an Infrascale partner, first and foremost, you get the ability to rebrand all this software. We can call it carlasdataprotection.com if we want to, or we can co-brand it so you can leverage the Infrascale brand and awards, or you can leave our brand on it. That's completely flexible. It's out of the box. Let's then talk about resources. One of the most common things we hear is, I'm a small IT firm. We're really good at running IT maintenance. The sales and marketing piece is new to us. Do you have any resources that you can give us that will help us sell to our customers? So we built out a thing called the Partner Resource Center, PRC. Again, this is available from Dashboard. And it is a rich library of generalized sales and marketing collateral. What do I mean by that? Well, there's a version of this deck where instead of our logo in the top right-hand corner, it says your logo here, where you can repurpose this presentation. There's a sophisticated disaster recovery professional services proposal template that you can use. There are emails that you can use to set up a drip email marketing campaign to your prospects. There are direct mail piece templates that you can use if you want to send out physical direct mail to your customers. Then on top of that, we have an entire training library of videos, and that's organized around 3 different streams. That's sales training for your salespeople or for you if you want to learn the best ways to sell data protection, disaster recovery. There's been technical training to really get amped up on the product and some of the, the very technical details. And then we do a marketing stream also where Carla actually runs webinars on best practices in online marketing around data protection. Let's also talk about support. We've got US-based support that runs 24 hours a day, so that's a free call US number that you can get access to the support organization. And they can double as your techs. So again, going back to that rebranding concept, if you buy from us and you white label our software, our techs can even join your phone calls with your customers. They won't announce that they're actually with Infrascale. They'll join kind of as your sales engineer, so to speak, and really help you sell to your customers. And they'll also do things like remote in and set things up. So it's quite a robust program, and I would actually say these program elements are just as important as the product portfolio. To succeed in this space, you've got to have phenomenal product, but you've also got to have a partner like us who's willing to give you all the support you need, whether it's marketing, sales, support, even billing support and infrastructure. And that's something we take very seriously here. We only succeed if our partners succeed. We're a channel-focused company, so this is really critical to what we do. Quote here from a customer, Infrascale gives me great peace of mind knowing that all my work and personal computers are being regularly backed up. This gives me a great way to access important files when I'm out of the office. We've got heaps of those. If you're interested in talking to some existing partners, we can set that up. So if you're a regional data center in Kansas, we can connect you with a regional data center in New York. And you can ask them about what it's like to work with us and learn about, learn from them. Another cool thing is we crowdsource our roadmap. So as a partner, you've got access to our roadmap for the next 2 quarters. You can vote on features, request features, and that's actually one of the ways we really drive product development here. So it's very exciting time at Infrascale, very exciting time for our customers. Carl's just passed me a note to remind me to say that our US-based support team is 7 days a week. So another pet peeve of partners is it's Sunday morning at 2 a.m. and there's nobody to help them. So, we've got that. All of our international contact details are here on the screen if you want to call in. I'd really recommend you call in and just get a free dashboard trial. They can set you up with an evaluation today, right? So get in and play with it. I really encourage that. The website's a great place for resources. And then we're going to stick around here and we're going to do a little product demo and answer any questions you've got. So let's answer questions. So Gary's got a good one. How many staff do you have? Gary, globally, 130 something. So we operate, our headquarters is here in Los Angeles. I'm not from Los Angeles. That might be obvious to some of you. We started as an Australian company once upon a time. So we've got an office in Australia, South Africa, the United Kingdom, Athens, Greece, Kiev, Ukraine, a couple of offices in India. So we're sort of all over the place, but about 130 staff worldwide. J.R. Hardwick wrote, I know this is unrelated, but would you offer email security on the platform in the future? J.R., possibly. The benefit of, so when we say we simplify data protection, it gives us the freedom to really think through what that means. We've been creative about not getting pigeonholed into what traditional backup vendors have always done. The idea that we would build remote wipe functionality or data destruction capability into our system to some backup vendors is crazy talk. That's the opposite of what they do. But we don't look at ourselves like that. We think of data protection as sometimes protecting data means backing it up or archiving. Other times it means destroying it. So if, as the market evolves, having message level security becomes a common request, and I refer back to that crowdsourcing of the roadmap. So if it was more than just you, JR, asking for that, then yeah, we would seriously look at building it out. File sharing was a great example of that. At one point in our life, we did not think philosophically file sharing fit into what we were doing, and then we had an epiphany that there are some businesses that want to move their primary file sharing workload off the on-premise Windows server and into a permanent cloud location. And so therefore, allowing them to do that within a secure and private cloud storage ecosystem was the purest form of data protection, because by moving that primary load to the cloud, it meant that we could make sure it was redundant, resilient, scalable, and secure. John asks one of my favorite questions: what is the potential profit margin for partners? John, I'm going to turn it right around and ask you, what is the regular profit margin that you make on most of the products you resell? You answer me that question, and then I'll answer your question. And while John's having a think about that, let's go to Gary. How do you price your partnerships? What's the structure? So Gary, there's a lot of different options. So everything from a per unit model where you can, you can partner with us on a deal-by-deal basis, to a flat fee model where you can sort of make a lot more margin because you're just paying a couple $100 a month. It's very easy to get started. Gary's replied, and John's replied. He said 10 to 50%. John, you debunked what I was trying to do there. Most people say 10 to 15%. Most of our partners are making around 50% margin on our products. So most of our partners are marking up what we sell significantly. Some are making a lot more than that. The more specialized partner, so an example of that is people who focus on just selling HIPAA compliant backup to the medical industry, or FINRA compliant backup to the financial services industry. Those guys are making 70, 80% profit. But in general, the profit margins are around the 50% mark. No other questions on the line at the moment. John, yes, 50. Okay, so while you all type some questions, which I hope you do, I'm just going to bring up the dashboard here for a second so you can get a look at that. Now, me bringing up dashboard is sort of a woeful equivalent of seeing the product. So call in, get your own free account, try it out, play with it, or you can watch. I think there are some dashboard demo videos on the website, Carla, and then we run. How often do we run the dashboard demo sessions?
Every 2 weeks we have a dashboard demo at 2 p.m. Pacific time on Wednesdays, and you can sign up for that on our website.
Fantastic. And bear in mind also that a video of this webinar is going to be sent to you afterwards. So here is the dashboard on screen, so you can very quickly get a snapshot of your whole environment, warnings, your accounts, little analytics section. You've then got all the tools below, and there's all sorts of power buried behind this hierarchical menu at the top. But for example, if I want to manage, companies, because I've got multiple customers that I'm dealing with, or if I'm a distributor and I have resellers beneath me, this is pretty common. You can actually, it's a two-tiered setup, so you can actually set up partners beneath you, and then they can they wouldn't have this top-level option. You can manage all of your devices from in here. What I like to do is go through and I've got one particular account that I usually pick on here. So this will be partner demo account. So, here we can see in this account, it's 363 gigs backed up. It only changed 4 gigs last month. I got some errors here that I should really deal with. Well, I want to know where that error is, so I like to pop over here to the analytics screen. And what this does is, I love this. This is one of my favorite features. It is such a pain in the butt to manage backup across any more than, say, 5 or 6 computers. I used to do this. My first job out of school was IT admin for a small office. On this screen, single snapshot, I can see what's going on. So, let's look at this guy. He had an error, and now he's just got a warning. That's cool. That actually tells me that I don't really need to worry about this guy because he healed himself. Similarly here, if we look at this period, he had an error, then he did nothing, then he backed up, right? So if we were right here, I wouldn't need to worry about it. Now, since then, he stopped backing up, and he's had a bunch of errors. So I do need to pilot in there. So this is one great view. Another pretty cool view here is the device view. So this is the part of the geolocation functionality. I always like to see where our sales reps have been demoing the system. So this is a snapshot here of where our sales reps have been at. And somebody asked us where we're based. Here's Los Angeles. We're based here in El Segundo, and people have all been sort of logging in different spots and demoing. Really powerful system, real-time remote control of endpoints, so no mucking around with remoting into computers and manually modifying settings. That's so 2005. So it's all very easy to manage. I can do things here like wipe a device. Now, I'm definitely not going to proceed with this, but I could, right? Everything's sort of bright red. I could do a selective wipe, or I could format this thing, literally brick the device. So that's not something to click on idly. I can then, if I want to actually go in and configure backups, I've got I've got different options. I can manage bare metal backup right here from the cloud, which is super cool. So, typically with bare metal backups, you've actually got to log into a machine to do it. With us, you can just manage it all from the dashboard. So you can administer all of the devices you're backing up, from your iPad. You can do it by you can do a sort of intelligent policy where you can define a policy in pretty simple English terms, right? So when we talk about policies, I'll just show you. I can say, look, I want to do documents, images, music, video, and I don't have to muck with that. Or if I want to define what else is in this policy, I can type it in. If I want to get really, really detailed about what's in a policy, I can actually then do manual folder selections as well. And I've got other options in setting this up. So imagine we're dealing with a file server as an example, and we wanted to set up multiple backup sets coming from a single machine. Well, I could go in here, configure my backup jobs, and then what I can do is add multiple folders. I need to fill it in. So what I could do here is I could add a couple of folders, and let's say I'd say C drive and D drive, right? And then I can set a different retention policy for each. So on this one, I'll say replicate, or maybe I want to do forever save. This means we're backing up to the cloud, never delete it. Well, this one's really cool, time-limited backup. So you get some companies who are like, look, we want to keep this data for 2 years and then purge it. We don't want it staying around for more than 2 years. We can do that right here. And you could set up multiple different backup sets this way with email reporting and then different schedulers. So again, a demo by me is a really poor substitute for a demo by one of our sales engineers or partner specialists. But I encourage you to come in here and play around with it. So we've got some questions on the line. Let me turn to those. Okay. JR says, how do you configure custom accounts that want specific data center locations? JR, that's a great question. We actually set that mapping up outside of dashboard, so you just talk to your partner specialist or your support representative. John says, does InfraScale do any end-user marketing and pass on leads to partners? We definitely pass on leads to partners, John. We don't do a ton of end-user marketing. Most of our marketing efforts are aimed at technology service providers, so that's like MSPs, ISPs, data centers. So we don't do a ton of marketing under the InfraScale brand to end users. When I say we don't do a ton, we hardly do any at all. But any leads that do come in, and there are many of those, we do pass on to our partners. JR's got another question. Can we set up the client's accounts and allow them to administer features, e.g. wipe backups, user roles? That's a great question, JR, and I wish Derek Wood, our product manager, is here because this is one of his favorite topics. Within the context of dashboard, you can set up a company or team as either a managed or unmanaged environment. If you set it up as managed, you've got God powers and you can do everything I was just showing you. If you set it up as unmanaged, they get that administrative functionality. So they get a login to dashboard. It's a sort of a lot thinner a functional service area. So they've got much less functionality. But it then means that they've got all that administrative functionality. And some of our partners say, I'm not allowed to do these sorts of things. So I don't want to have the sorts of power that you can have. And in that case, you just set those users up as an unmanaged company. Gary asks, what's the average size of your backups? Or what is the largest sizes you currently handle? I don't know what the average size is, Gary. Pretty typically, we're dealing with sort of, probably across the partner base, 10 to 20 terabytes in a job. We've got some customers who are pushing like a petabyte, like 800 terabytes. So we have some, some very large sets as well. So, anything up to a petabyte we've done frequently. When we get customers, and we've had a couple over the years who want to do, multiple petabytes, we generally approach that with some custom infrastructure. Because we control the metal in all of our data centers, we've got the flexibility to do that for some of our larger partners. What sort of data payloads are you dealing with, Gary? Terabytes, okay. Yeah, single terabytes, tens of terabytes, or hundreds of terabytes? Tens, okay, no issue at all. I'm backing up about 15 terabytes in my account, which sounds absurd, but I've got a lot of digital media files that I've accumulated over the years. Okay, so that's all the questions we've got on the line, folks. We're going to be here for another 5 minutes, so ask us anything. Carla, you've got any comments to add to the group?
None so far.
The Stanley Cup's coming through Manhattan Beach today, so we're quite excited about that for any hockey fans on the line. Carla's a huge hockey fan.
This is true. This is true. I'll be going to see it.
Gary asks, do you sell directly to end users? Gary, yes and no. We have a consumer product called SOS Online Backup, which is available to purchase online as a consumer home user product. The product and dashboard that I've been showing you today, we do not. That's a partner-only product. So about 90% of our revenue comes from the channel, and probably 90% of our product set is available only through our partners. JR's got another question. Does the Mobile Protection NGuard module protect data at the app level? I'm not sure what you mean by that, JR. If you give me a scenario, give me a real-world scenario you're dealing with, and I might be able to answer it. And while JR's typing the scenario, I'll just describing the NGuard module. It's backup for laptops, desktops, tablets, mobiles. The data payload you're dealing with in those environments varies by device type, right? So on Windows laptops, it's all the files, for example, whereas on an Android device, you're backing up messages, contacts, and then all the files that might be on the SIM card. On an iPhone, it's even more restrictive because there's no file system on an iPhone, so we're backing up messages, contacts, and images. Gary asks about block-level deltas. Gary, that's a great question. So yes, we do block-level deduplication and block-level differencing, and that's all throughout our product. So again, simple example, let's take a Windows laptop or a Windows file server. First backup happens, we're going to dedupe it. So if you've backed up a file within your business before, we're not going to send that over the wire. So full object, source side deduplication. Then, measures the second day and file changes. All we're going to do is we're going to take the binary difference between those two versions and only send the binary difference over the wire. Both of those two things fall under the bucket of WAN optimization or data payload reduction, which is a fancy way of saying we transfer the bare minimum. And full object, client-side dedupe, it's not common. That's a really powerful, sort of gloriously nerdy topic that we don't often get to talk about. I say that as our chief nerd. But we would put a lot of work into minimizing that data payload because we don't want the product flooding the network. And believe it or not, when we first started doing this in Australia, dial-up and asymmetric DSL, very limited upload links, was the primary technology that we're dealing with from a network standpoint. So we've done a lot of work around WAN optimization. That was probably more information than you're asking, Gary. JR wrote, it was a question from a client concerned about sandboxing apps like Salesforce, putting an encryption layer around it. Got it, JR. Okay, no, we don't do that. That's more like MDM, like an AirWatch or MobileIron kind of play. So we don't do app containerization. Furthermore, I'll add to that. It's kind of an orthogonal topic because when you're doing app containerization, the data is nearly always sitting in the cloud and the data is not actually residing on a device. Our technology is preoccupied with protecting data that's on that device, if that makes sense. All right, well, we're out of time, and there don't seem to be too many more questions coming in. I want to thank everybody who participated, particularly JR, Gary, John. It's great when people ask questions. We love having these. We love having these be interactive. webinar is going to be available online, and you'll get an email. If you'd like to get the PowerPoint presentation, call in, talk to a partner specialist. If you would like to get an evaluation of the environment, call in, talk to a partner specialist. Carla, any closing remarks?
You can also check out our website, infrascale.com, and infrascale.com/blog has product news and updates that you can subscribe to. We also have news and updates that come through our dashboard news feed right when you log into the dashboard, so you'll very well see that. And hopefully you can get in touch with us and we'll continue the conversation.
And if you'd like to chat to us, we're all very accessible. You can connect with me on LinkedIn. My profile is Ken Shaw Jr. If you want to email me, you can do that. My email address is ken@infrascale.com. Love to hear from customers and prospects. And even if you don't choose to partner with us, we'd love to know why so we can address that in the future. So don't be shy. And thank you very much for attending this morning. We really enjoyed doing these and hope you have a fantastic day. Bye-bye now.